What's good, guys? This is Charles from Team COG coming to you guys live at Locals here. We went to Locals and we ended up getting third place. And I'll go through all my matches here and talk to you guys about them. I, of course, took Infernoble. As you guys know, it's my baby deck. It's my pet deck. But most importantly, I really wanted to take Ice Barrier, but I was missing 2 cards that justify it. And with Nationals coming up, I do believe Infernobles is like the deck that I'm going to take to Nationals. Not because I'm like, it's the deck, like it's my pet deck, like I said before. It's because I do believe what this deck does, no other deck can currently do. Every other great deck out there loses to board breakers and crazy cards, and we do not, thanks to Angelica's Angel Ring. So I feel like that gives us a fighting chance. And I ended up taking Pax Inspiration for this list because, you know, we're in a hand trap war format where we got to just fling 4 hand traps, you know, like chapow, and it's just, we can't compete with that because we have a lot of engine space, and if you cut down your engine, you're going to have like these weird scenarios, or you're going to brick on multiple hand traps. That's just how some of these combo decks work. So I decided to go the board breaker approach because you're statistically more likely to see 1 board breaker than you are to see 2 hand traps, and I was testing a lot of hand traps previously. I ended up taking this deck to, I think, 2 or 3 locals prior and doing really good. I got like top 4 at another one and stuff like that. The only loss I had was to Labyrinth twice to the same guy. I just feel like this deck can't compete in the hand trap war, so in that case, if we really just need to win the die roll, and if you're, you know, die roll is always 50-50, so you really just need to, you know, be prepared for that. So I decided to go to that board breaker type strategy, and this is where we're going to get to see it go through here. And we're going to break down everything we have going here. So without further ado, if you guys want to catch these videos live, actually, go ahead and head over to my twitch.tv/team_COG and give me a follow there if you guys want to watch these videos live in action and all that time stuff over on Twitch. I like to stream on Twitch, then move it over here to YouTube for you guys who've been faithful here on YouTube to see. And if you guys also want to help support the channel, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, and think about becoming a member. It helps the channel deeply, and it's most appreciated in everything. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hit the play button here. So I have this sped up because it's, you know, 4-hour locals and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure, I wanted to try and get this, not make it too long a video. Even with it at 2 times the speed, I'm looking, it's still like 1 hour and 30 minutes. So we're not gonna like sit through, you know, all the time in between rounds. But round 1 here, where you go against, I want to say, I'm trying to think, I don't know why I wanted to say Runic. It's not Runic, it's Earthbound Tier Element. There we go. Earthbound Tier Element here. And I only won 1 dice roll all night, and that was the one, you guys will see, the 1 dice roll I win. So if you look at my hand, looks like I have Ricardetto, Tactics, Ogier, Museum. He's going to go ahead and discard King of the Swamp. Just correcting my camera here. I do apologize for that, guys. So he goes and discards the King of the Swamp, and I'm like, how many times are you going to go in your deck? And he's like, I'm not done yet. So I just tell him to go ahead and go. And we go ahead and pass it up here and let him go ahead and run through his combo. He summons, I couldn't tell you these guys' name, but that's the one that adds the Harmonizing Fusion, I believe, or something like that. It's the one that lets you fusion and synchro all in once. So I know that, well, something that's kind of crazy is that he was cooking something like this prior to a video that Jesse Cotton put out. So like, that's always like a great feeling, right? When you're cooking something and then some like known player like ends up like also cooking it with you and puts it out. But it looks like I have Tactics, Roland, Ogier. Looked like it was Malgus, maybe? Maybe it was Malgus. But we're going to see the Earthbound Fusion go down, go into the Kraken, which Kraken is actually kind of a crazy card, man. If you ever read this card, once you special summon the extra deck, you destroy all special summon monsters. Like, that's kind of nutty. Like, like when I was watching this deck, I never thought it would actually, like, they never ended on this. And I was kind of like, dang, like, this is actually pretty crazy. But he's going to go and activate the Prime Planet. I forget this one's name. This one just is the one that searches any tier element. I've literally mentally blocked like all of the tier elements names. Like I remember Havanus, and then I can't even remember them. I know the one in his hand, you like discard a card and special summon itself. So then he gets to mill 3. And he ends up, I think there was a whale in there too. He ends up milling the whale. He banishes that to go ahead and I think he reborns out another one of the Earthbound Immortals. He's going to activate the Harmonious Fusion, fusing those 2 and also synchro summoning. So I know like the common thing to go here is like Dragos Tapelia, but he ends up going into the other Earthbound, and then he ends up making Ancient Fairy Dragon, which we all know what Ancient Fairy Dragon does. It'll destroy the field spell, grab another one, special summon 1 from hand. I guess the gimmick he has with this deck is to burn, which I guess, I mean, like, and it's like the deck does have like synchro potential, so I'm sure it can do a lot more. He literally put it together and was just trying to win get at locals. That's what locals is for. Always remember, locals is always there for fun and like testing, right? So like, no one should go like super hard at locals and everything. It's okay to go X3 at locals. I said it. It's all right to go X3 at locals. And our locals is really fortunate because like we don't have a lot of meta players. We have a lot of competitive players, but we don't have a lot of like meta players, which is extremely nice. But it's like a double-edged sword. It's very beneficial to be able to test strategies and not have to worry about playing Snake Ice like for 4 rounds. But it's also really unfortunate, because then when you're trying to get testing for higher tier events, you're stuck. You never get to test against those strategies, which is, I think, is the biggest downfall of our locals and probably another local. So he hits Havanus. I believe that's Havanus. And he gets to fuse it with King of the Swamp, I believe. Yep, to go ahead and make the Rukalos, which I think is the Solemn Judgment. I think that's the one, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, so essentially what I'm staring down currently, I think he can go off and he can make a Crystal Wing here with the level 1 Earthbound and the Ancient Fairy Dragon, which would be pretty nice. So he goes here into another Earthbound. So this Earthbound actually ends up kind of getting me in the end here. If you destroy it, it lets you, or quick effect, it lets you reborn Earthbound. I believe it's a quick effect, but if you destroy it, it burns you for 300 for every Earthbound name in the graveyard, which is gonna come up here. But so essentially all I'm staring down currently, and I cannot conduct my battle phase either, due to the big whale. And the big whale burned me for 12, which pretty much limits me down to how many museums I can use to search. So essentially, I draw for turn, I draw Imperm. Imperm is pretty crazy to draw. And this is also why I'm playing Imperm, because if I was any other hand trap, right, if I drew Ash Blossom, Ogre, Effect Veiler, it was a dead card in my hand and it would do me absolutely nothing. So again, in the same theory of I'm more likely to draw like Board Breakers, even though I'm not going to call Imperm a Board Breaker, it's still one of the better cards to draw off the top of the deck than like Nibiru or any other form of hand trap. So we're going to go into Imperm the Kraken, because the Kraken actually poses the best, like the worst threat. Root Kalos here, it negates monster effects that activate the special summon themselves, so as long as I am inherently summoning, I am okay. But once we get to like cards like Angelica, where Angelica's going to try and summon out Roland, she can stop that, and that stops my whole strategy. And my goal play here is somehow I have to be able to force the Root Kalos and maybe get to Gearfried, because Gearfried this entire tournament was like my win condition in a lot of things, because Gearfried solves a lot of problems. It sucks up multiple monsters. And if you throw down Dark Ruler no more, you can't do damage. So when you're going second, Gearfried really shines, and the ability of, like, you're not doing damage, but you're able to just gobble up, and Gearfried solves 2 monsters for 1. But we're going to go to Museum to go Durandal to go ahead and grab Renaud effect, special to add back Gearfried. And so here, I'm in a tough situation here. Arguably, I could have I'm not locked into Warriors, I could have possibly linked into an Anima, taken the whale. Now looking at it, right? Looking back at it, I could have used Renaud, linked into Anima, sucked up the whale. Then I could have used Ricardetto in my hand, special summon out what I think is Roland as a tuner, Synchro into Angelica add. Then I could have potentially used Gearfried attempt to summon itself. He would answer with Root Kalos, and then I could potentially get further, essentially. Because I think what I was trying to do was focused on solving the whale, because the whale is not letting me conduct my battle phase, and I have to clear this board, because look at this board, man. Like, no matter if I just sit here and don't do nothing, like, he still will be able to do some crazy stuff. I believe I fire off. I have Tactics too in my hand, that's right. So Tactics along in my hand is pretty insane. So now definitely looking back at it, that was probably the play, was to link into Anima, take the whale, potentially force something. But we're gonna go and activate Gearfried here, banish the thing, and he's gonna respond with Kick Kalos. Or not Kick Kalos, that's the one that's banned. Rukalos, I believe, is this one's name. It's going to destroy itself, but he's going to destroy the other one, the Kashtira tier element, so that he can pretty much free up some space. But now that he's done that, Tactics is pretty much alive. And I'm going to go and roll in effect to go to Angelica, chain Angelica's effect to go ahead and send Turpin, banish this to go ahead and summon out the Roland. There is a lot of stuff going on the field, and like, always read your cards, man. Always read your cards. And I should have read these cards, because we don't catch so the Synchro Monster special summons out one of the Earthbounds, and this guy says they cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects or battles. So I was like, oh my gosh. So like, my other plan of just going up into Charles and Charles popping it isn't going to work now. So like, my plan B to Gearfried, like, plan B is not going to happen here. So we go ahead and make good old OG Charles, and then we decide to activate the second museum, of course, pay 12. And if you had read the Synchro Monster burns you. So probably would have thought this through before paying all this life points. Like, I don't know if I had to. Like I said, hindsight's looking back, the correct play was probably to go Renaud into Anima, suck up the whale, and then maybe link into SP Little Knight, target and banish something, and then when he chains to it, I could SP Little Knight, get out of there. Or potentially, I could have just used SP to banish something and then climbed into, like, Promethean Princess, because I wasn't warrior locked. So, like, that's probably what the correct line I play was, but like, in the heat of the moment, man, all these cards do so much, and like, I'm so concerned about losing to something I don't know about. That's why I was reading the field spell. I was like, oh, what does the field spell do? What is this? I forget what the Cashier field spell does. How much are they gaining? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't read any of the other cards. We ended up making Charles here, and I believe we used tactics to steal the whale, which again, like I said, was probably not the correct call. It's kind of interesting now seeing the correct line was to go into Anima, steal, probably go up into, because I still had access to gear free to go into like Little Knight and stuff like that. And I still had tactics, so then tactics could still take something, or tactics could bring me 2 instead of having to steal. But we go ahead and banish here to special summon out the Turpin. And the reason I do this is because then I use the museum to move up to make Little Knight. Little Knight, since I can't attack directly anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use Little Knight here to banish a card. So we go ahead and banish the little Linewalker Monkey, just so like now things can be destroyed by battle. And yeah, it's just kind of difficult, man. I think Roland's in the grave. I could have equipped Roland to Little Knight to give it a 500 boost, making it 21, but I still think I wouldn't have been big enough to get over anything. But I'm going to use tactics to steal the whale here. And I am warrior locked now, so that's what kind of stinks, is like I got to out this field and find some way to get rid of the whale. And I just don't have like a high enough monsters to solve what's existing right now. I shouldn't have made, well, Little Knight was, I had to make Little Knight to solve the monkey, so like things could be destroyed by battle. Otherwise, no matter what I did, these things were going to be destroyed. So I have to just get my attack. So I attack here, and this is where we have like a kind of like a, this is where you should just read your cards. Truly read your cards. So I go whale into the synchro is what I do, because in my mind I have this big brain play, right? I go whale into synchro. Synchro's effect, right, destroys itself, and then he gets to, so there's like, it's all one effect. He destroys a card on the field and then burns me for 300 each. So then I chain the Little Knight to allow Charles to dodge, and then, so he's reading the card fully. This is where he's like, oh, it's all one effect. So essentially he's going to burn me for 15 and then destroy the whale, and then I'm going to take damage equal to the whale. So this next level play, as I'll fast forward here, yeah, and we're just finding out now, he's reading it all now, and this is what we find out. He's like, well, wait a minute. He's like, this is all one effect. And I'm like, come again? So he would have burned me for 29 and then burned me for 15, or like more than 15. So we count as 300 for each thing. So all he needs is 5. So there's 5 right there, not to mention the one on field. So yeah, he ends up burning me, getting me with some burn damage. So yeah, just gotta read your cards, man. Gotta read your cards. Okay, so now we're going into game number 2 here, and I get to go first. My opening hand is very, so like when I look at my hands, right, some people be like, oh, I have a brick hand. I look at my hands on the terms of playability. Right here, I have the ability to play. I have combo. Is it weak and fragile? It is, but it's not always going to be that way. But that's what I look for. I look at consistently and being able to open combo. Like, yes, my opponent hand traps me. That's just the state of the game, right? So like, oh, you ashed my 1 card, game, you know, it's over. But I had combo if they didn't have hand traps. And that's what I look for. That's important in decks, is how consistently you open truly brick and dead hands. And this deck really doesn't do that. It's like any level 4 plus access to Renault is combo. So as long as we get access to that, like we have the combo. Which you can see here, Malgus, which is you don't want to see Malgus in your hand, but it's an okay normal summon because it's a level 4 fire warrior. So like right here, we're able to go into Durandal into search out Roland, which means we must already have access to Renaud in hand, which Renaud is the best extender in the deck. So like you should probably be playing more than one Renaud. Otherwise, like you're just gonna kind of like lose in the scenario. But we're gonna special summon out Renaud to go ahead and add back the Durandal. We're going to make Angelica. Conveniently for me, my man goes go hard. I don't have no hand traps, so any other time you're like, oh sweet. So like I can go full combo. My hand was I have like Roll Legacy Succession. I will go and go Roll in effect, target Angelica, chain Angelica to go ahead and send. I think we go Ogier. So my end boards are gonna still be pretty crazy actually. Angelica runs away and goes into Roland, Ogier to equip, Museum to move forward. Ogier to send the Gearfried, and then we're going to go ahead and make ourselves the Emperor Charles, equipped, link into OG Charles, Blue 2 Charles, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, equipped, add back the Gearfried. I'm going to activate the second field spell because the field spell is not once per turn, so this is going to give me double Charles. I'm going to go ahead and add the Joyous this time, and then I think I go ahead and activate Gearfried here just in case he's holding like Nib or something for later on, so then I can go ahead and equip Durandal to Gearfried just out of fear, because I play a lot of locals, so people like understand like the really hard choke points in the deck, so like they like hold their hand traps for like moments like this where I get all these Charleses out and they're like, we gotcha! But anyway, in phase, Angelica returns. We're going to resolve the main deck Roland effect to go ahead and add an equip spell. And then Charles effect will equip from the hand and then equip from the deck the Oliver. And I should have equipped Malgus here, but I think in the back of my mind I was trying to hold a spot for So my Roland would be live to pop, because remember, Charles now is like a 3 disruption Charles, because he can spell negate something, he can pop something, and Angel Ring is also a negate. The King of the Swamp, he's going to go ahead and pitch it to go ahead and grab Polymerization. And essentially, I know that in his hand is might be Board Breaker, so that's where this is like exactly what I was talking about at the very beginning of the video. This deck right here, like look right here. We'll go ahead and pause right here just to kind of like stroke Infernobles on ego. You're currently staring down 2 spell and trap negates, a spell negate, a pop, and a monster negate. So that's 5 forms of disruption alone, and you don't lose to Board Breakers. So essentially, I can interact with 5 cards in the opponent's hand, which is totally wild. And if I happen to go open like the Uppercutter combo, you open what you get access to Princess. So you have 6 disruptions with Princess engraved, so you can interact with your opponents, like all the cards in your opponent's hand you can interact with. But most importantly to note is like Charles can't be targeted, so that means anything that targets, Imperm, etc. has to be dropped down. You can't Droplets me because of Angelic Ring, you can't Dark Ruler me because of Angelic Ring, you can't Super Poly me because of Angelic Ring. So all those Board Breakers, unless you draw multiples of them, they're not going to do you any good. And most of them, outside of Droplets and Super Poly, I can respond, and Dark Ruler, excuse me, I can respond to. So like, I shouldn't say Droplets, because sometimes like they won't pitch a monster. Sometimes they won't pitch a monster because they think that Angelic Ring, they can't get it with Angelic Rings, and you just negate it with Charles. But that's what makes us. And this right here is pretty much why I believe that this deck is a good choice for me personally. Why I'm taking this deck to Nationals is because this deck can put this up on like a 1 or 2 card iterations, and we don't lose to busted Board Breakers. Now, hand traps on their hand, this deck can play through, depending on the hand traps. Low impact hand traps, if it's an mediocre to good hand, if you play correctly, you can play through like 1 to 3 hand traps like nobody's business. And then if you have a very weak hand, you lose to 1 Ash, or you lose to an Ogre. It is what it is. And then if you have like high impact hand traps, like the deck naturally can set up a anti-Nibiru line or an anti-hand trap line, but it puts them on if they have higher impact hand traps or 2 hand traps, you kind of fall short. But I mean, that's the state of the game. Even before, man, if you made Baron and like you hand trap and Baron negate, and they had another hand trap like Effect Veiler, Imperm, etc., like Baron lost as well. So we're still doing pretty good if you ask me. Anyway, enough of stroking the decks on ego. So another card you have to watch out for is Tactics, is because sometimes you'll negate something, they'll go Tactics to try and steal and draw, and you don't want them to steal or draw because they will potentially draw into more Board Breakers or draw into more gas, so you want to stop Tactics no matter what. But anyway, he goes to try and activate the field spell here, and you have to respond to the field spell, otherwise it just hits, Angelic Ring hits it, and I like think that he plays so many field spells from game 1 that this is just a bait. So he ends up sending a card, he goes Tactics to attempt to draw 2, I believe is what he said, and I negate that with Charles. So essentially, 2 my spell and trap negates are gone, so Angel Ring hits the Polymerization, and he has the, I don't know its name, the monkey. It looks like he has 2 of the monkeys in his hand, actually. And he was asking, does Gearfried negate and destroy? I was like, yep, Gearfried does negate and destroy. So then we see the, I think he just tries to normal summon it. Truly, and this one summons from the deck, the one that searches the Harmonic Fusion, which we cannot let him get access to that, because that card is, if he were to Harmonic Fusion, that would be pretty big. But he goes ahead and normal summon the monkey effect. I go ahead and send the Angel Ring because it's already exhausted. And he's like, can't be destroyed because I have control of field spell. And I was like, well, darn. And we just go ahead and wrap it up here because I just have too much for him. The clapback's going to be real. So we're going to go ahead and jump on into that all-important game number 3. All right, we're all into that all-important game number 3. And now we got to fight against Time. Time is been timed twice at this tournament was my enemy. Game 3 wasn't me playing against my opponent, it was me playing against the clock. And it just sucks that we have a field spell that literally says, you know, pay 12. So I had to be like really conscious of how I did this. And especially so him, the big line walker guy, he like reduces my like life points to 3,000. So this going into Time is like where this deck thrives. So I had to like, I have to be pretty smart, because if I can see in my hand I have Dark Ruler no more, I have Heritage of the Chalice, so depending on what he does, you know, clearly if he puts up a board and it doesn't burn me, I can Dark Ruler no more. And then once I Dark Ruler no more, I can just clean house. But then getting close to Time, if you're not able to do damage, it's kind of rough, and the damage I do to myself. So I end up flying Imperm here on the one Earthbound that searches the Harmonic Fusion. I feel like that's a good hit. Harmonic Fusion is pretty insane when you think about like card economy and stuff. And I'm looking at my extra deck, man, or my side deck, and I really forgot to side out something, which was kind of upsetting. So I told him, I was like, if I end up drawing this card, it's on me. But that's why we're at locals. We're testing side decks and stuff like that. You got to get back in the gist of siding and everything, getting your siding patterns down. But he has, I can see him reading there, that's the Earthbound Fusion in the graveyard. So right now he can, I think he has the ability to synchro technically. He activates Polymerization, fusing the 2 Earthbounds away into Kraken. Kraken is also, like I said, I think Kraken not only destroys, but it burns you too. So like, it's just kind of wild, man, like how the Earthbound deck is like, its kind of gimmick is to like burn you. But they have like such cool cards. I know like Earthbound Runic was like a very popular strategy because of like what I was able to do. But he go ahead and adds the Prison of the Earthbound, or Earthbound's Prison. I know that card. And that is like, that's an insane card for going second. You activate it and you get to like imperm something, like a searchable imperm. Like that's nice. We're going here, and my buddy Sebastian's trying to hurry through because we hate the time rules, man. There's no honor in winning in time. So we're just trying to do our best here. And he's going to go ahead and try and bring out, I think that's the Line Walk. He banishes that to summon the Line Walker. And then whenever a Earthbound monster is tributed or normal summon, he gets to reduce my life to 3. And he's going to go ahead and get an initial normal summon. And he normal summons out the Whale. And then Line Walker's going to reduce me to 3,000. So I'm in danger already. Time is ticking. And it's not going to be good. Like, time's ticking. And I hate losing in this way, man. I hate, like, when you have, like, the power and the gas to beat stuff. I don't know, like, you're going to lose in time. So I'm going to activate the museum, pay 12. It's all or nothing, man. I got to full send it here. I go ahead and equip to the Line Walker, the Durandal. Go ahead and grab Ogier. Normal summon Ogier. I go ahead and use Ogier's effect to go ahead and send. I thought about, as you guys can see, I'm, like, running through it. I go ahead and send Turpin, because I already opened Gearfried. I banish to summon the Gearfried. I go ahead and use Turpin to equip the Gearfried. Special Renault, add back the banish. Synchro into Angelica. And then he goes ahead and tries to use the Kraken here. I negate it with Gearfried, so that means he's not going to be able to destroy my special monsters or burn me anymore. So he's just reading, and I was like, you just stop me if there's anything I need to know. We go Durandal onto Angelica, chain the Angelica, so that we're able to try and get through here, dump the Roland. I don't know why I dump Roland, but we do it anyway. I go ahead and activate Heritage of the Chalice here to go ahead and grab Almus, activate equipped Almus so I can special summon out the Turpin. Synchro into Charles. As you can see here, we're frantically trying to go through here. Chain link, we get to add back the Renaud off of the Almus. And then we go ahead and Turpin gets banished. Roland, go there. Charles to pop the Whale. We go into Charles. Charles equip. We move up Charles with the field spell. And then we go ahead and I think we equipped here to Charles to get more damage because damage is important. We go Gearfried, attack, suck up, and then we swing in for 775. And that is enough for game there. So that was, I had to like go all gas. I had Dark Ruler, but I couldn't activate it because, you know, time was of the essence, and I couldn't afford to not do damage. So I just had to play through my mind. A huge shout out to my buddy Sebastian for not, you know, trying to be like thinking, you know, or anything like that to haul out time. He knew that he didn't have any effects or anything like that. He knew the one effect he had. So like he was just waiting to, he played perfectly. Huge shout out to him for not, you know, trying to stall or anything like that, or try to hold out time and stuff like that. So that's an honorable play right there, man. Honorable player. But let's go ahead and move on into round number 2. Okay, guys, so here we are in the all-important round number 2. I'm playing against my buddy Kyle, who is on YuGiOh, and your boy lost the dice roll again. So we hit play here. My opening hand's Imperm, Dark Ruler, and Chalice plus Almus. So he ends up normal summoning the Lotus here, and right here. So this is incorrect. I imperm the Lotus because it's only a quick effect if the YuGiOh is on the field. I imperm the Lotus because I'm thinking, all right, so this is a good call, but I'm almost certain he had a Grave Squirmer with the throne, so that was like a horrible, like I didn't read Grave Squirmer. I should have read it to understand that it can special summon itself from, you know, like, I thought Grave Squirmer can only summon itself from the graveyard, but it can summon itself from the hand. Hindsight, it's 2020, should have, like, read your cards. Always read your cards. Read your opponent's cards. Always do it. But Imperm was horrible here, but also my thought process, I had Dark Ruler no more, so I kind of figured that as long as he doesn't end on the Unchained Trap or anything like that, for the most part, Imperm couldn't check the Unchained Trap anyway. Dark Ruler's just going to go. So this Imperm was more so me freely throwing it to test the waters to see what could happen, because it was virtually useless, as you'll see here. He special summons the Grave Swarmer from his hand, links off into Yama. I believe that's what he goes for. Yep, goes into Yama. And then he'll go ahead and search Shavara, which is kind of insane, man. Yama can exist, but his old can't exist. Shit ain't right. Banish the Grave Squirmer to go ahead and special summon out Lotus. Lotus effect, and that checks out. Yep, so Imperm here was wasted. It kind of reminds me, if you guys remember when the Labyrinth Unchained was kind of crazy, like you didn't really want to waste your hand traps on the Labyrinth stuff. You want to hit the Unchained stuff because like you could, for the most part, play through the lab stuff, but it was the Unchained extra layer of protection that did stuff. And that's what I'm getting the feel with YuGiOh here, is YuGiOh does a lot of crazy stuff, but like some of the more crazier stuff it does is like the Unchained side. So if you're going to fling your hand traps, fling them at the Unchained stuff. But I could be wrong. But looking through his deck, man, I'm seeing a lot of hand traps, Effect Veiler, Ogres, Imperms, lots of them. So he goes and activates the Nightmare Pain, which grabs him the Lotus, I believe. And like I said, we're local, so we're talking, we're testing. He gets to destroy a card, he destroys YuGiOh, Spirit of YuGiOh to summon out OG YuGiOh, and then he can make the Spirit of YuGiOh, I believe, the new fusion that pretty much turns any effect into you destroy YuGiOh monster from deck, which is kind of crazy. This card, along with the Fiendsmith stuff coming out, YuGiOh is about to be insane here. So I'm looking at I'm trying to see his hand here, and it looks like he has a hand trap. Yep, he has Ash Blossom. So he's kind of debating what he should do. Maybe he should have, he links into, I think, Rage. Yep, Rage is there, and Rage is a quick effect link on my turn. So he's going to use Shavara to go ahead and destroy the YuGiOh, to summon out Shavara, to go ahead and trigger the YuGiOh. YuGiOh will trigger and summon from the graveyard OG YuGiOh, and then he goes ahead and the Lotus comes back, and he destroys Lotus for Shavara, and he's not playing any of the traps, so that's really good on my part. But I end up drawing, I think, well, it doesn't matter. We smacked Dark Ruler down because this is exactly 100%. So I flung Impermanum, right? Arguably, what other hand, if Dark Ruler was like Ash or anything else, I would have flung it at him, and he probably would have comboed through it. So then that's just what I'm trying, that's exactly the point of, so 2 hand traps wouldn't have done nothing, but this board breaker is going to do more than a hand trap would have. So anyway, so we go ahead and we do this here. So I end up, I think I have Spar in my hand, but now I got to, yeah, and we were discussing, he was thinking that they could activate, like the Lotus and the Spirit would activate under Dark Ruler, and I was like, no, I don't think they do. They tribute themselves and they resolve negated. But, so I actually have enough Ash Bait, really. So I go Heritage of the Chalice to attempt to add any Noble Knight, and I believe I go for Ogier. So Ogier's pretty good here. Looking at my hand, I do have access to Almas. Almas gets Durandal, and then I can continue that way. But if he ashed the Durandal, if he would have held his Ash Blossom for Durandal, I would have been in a horrible mess here. So maybe the correct play would be normal summon out this Spar and do some like shenanigans there. But anyway, I go Ogier's effect to dump. And conveniently, like I said, since I play at locals, he knows that the dump's going to get to Gearfried. So pretty much denying me Gearfried was what he was trying to do here. But like I said, I have Almas here, so I have the ability to play through it. So I go Almas, I'll destroy Almas to go ahead and equip Durandal. Durandal will go ahead and destroy itself to grab the, oh, but he goes ahead and he hits the, so 1 second, I gotta pause here real quick. So I do a horrible misplay here. So he had Ash and Ogre. I had triple tactics in my hand. I very much so, and this is a horrible misplay on my part, should have used tactics as soon as the Ash looked at his hand. But for some reason, in my mind, I was like, oh, what are the chances of him having 2 hand traps? And if they're 2 hand traps, I wasn't really expecting Ogre, so this is a horrible misplay on my part. I should be punished here, and I should not get what I get, but I do, because essentially, my deck beat Ash, and my deck beat 2 hand traps, essentially, because of tactics. I could eat one and look at the hand and rip another, so the tactics should be used to rip the Ogre, and then Durandal should resolve. But for some reason, the Yu-Gi-Oh gods favor me this game, so I draw 2, and I draw into Renault anyway. So I special summon Renault, add back Durandal, and then just for shits and giggles, he goes, chain the Unchain. I was like, but it's negated by Dark Ruler. He goes, but I can still activate it. So then we get to go ahead and go into our Angelica effect. We go ahead and grab ourselves the Museum. So yeah, that was a horrible misplay on my part, and that's something that I need to I think I just kind of got lost in the moment. But we go ahead and search out the Joyous, which is our last equip spell on the deck, to go ahead and grab it so we can add back some things here. We're going to equip Durandal Chainer effect to go ahead and dump. I believe we dump Gearfried here. Yep, we send Gearfried, and she will run away and summon out Roland. So yeah, I'm still, now after seeing that happen, I was like, wow, I should have looked at the hand. There was no reason for me not to. I had combo. I should have looked at the hand. But anyway, I equipped here. I special summon out the Turpin from my hand, and then I go ahead and use Joyous effect to add back the Gearfried, and then I pretty much just have all the makings here to go Charles. Do I have enough to do double Charles? And before anyone says anything, Turpin was specialed from the hand, so it's not banished. And then we're just we're sitting here waiting, because this is where he was like, I want to ask and make sure that these guys contribute and stuff. So we'll just go ahead and fast forward about it here. And I was reading, I was like, I'm pretty sure Dark Ruler negates their effects. And I was like, go ahead and take a picture of it so we can ask the Judge's Lounge. Go ahead and fast forward through it. And he's scrolling through the Judge's Lounge to see if he can find something. And so I go ahead and use Charles' effect. We continue Charles' effect to go and destroy the Nightmare, because that would mean any damage he would take, I would take, but there's no damage being dealt. We go Museum to move up Charles. We go and equip the Turpin. So we go ahead and get the double Charles and a Gearfried to hopefully be able to end this. I almost banished Durandal, which was a bad mistake. We'll go and go Ogier to equip the Charles to go ahead and remember it, because sometimes I forget the guys in the graveyard. And then we attempt to go Battle Phase, so we'll attack on the Lotus, suck up the YuGiOh, and then the double Charles will smack over the Yama and stuff. But he attempts to activate Yama and negate it with Gearfried, and then the double Charles will attack over the Rage and the YuGiOh, but Rage lets him add back a Fiend, which is pretty cool. Pretty good card. The Unchained stuff has a lot of recursion, so he adds the Spirit of YuGiOh, and I was like, oh, great, I remember what this one does. So whenever I declare attack, he can special summon it. So I just pretty much means he'll have the Spirit of Yubel out, and I just got to, and I don't have enough bodies to like solve the Spirit of Yubel. I can solve, the Spirit of Yubel is not that big of a deal, but it's the fusion. If I don't get the fusion off it, that equalizer checks one of my effects. So I know the fusion has got to go. So he gets to set the Nightmare Pain, which the Nightmare Pain, like, I'm not scared of it. Like I said, I'll have 2 spell and trap negates and a pop. So like he has no cards in hand. So essentially, here we are with a simplified game state where I have more interruptions than he has cards available. In phase, Angelica will return. I'll equip Durandal and grab from the deck, I think, a Malgus. Yep, we go ahead and grab Malgus, so that way I can potentially draw. I don't, like, Yubel's kind of crazy, so if there's any way that they could get out of it. He drew in perm for turn. I just see it now. What an awful draw. What a terrible draw, my man. But I understand the feeling. I understand it completely. And he's just reading Charles. So Charles negates trap or spell and trap effects as well, so it just means both Charles check the 2 spells he has, and then Gearfried is just going to be able to attack into the Spirit and suck it up. So he's going to attempt to activate that, and I just got to hit it with Charles. Charles will negate, and I'll get to shuffle back 3 and draw a card, which is pretty crazy. You get to be able to put back the equip spells, and then my field spell becomes live again. Always remember that you can also shuffle back multiple copies of the field spell if you need to with Malgus. So I draw a card, and he's just looking through his graveyard. He's going to set one, and then conveniently enough during the end phase, Charles will be able to trigger again because it's every end phase. But I shuffled back my equip spell, which is kind of stinky. But again, his 1 set card Imperm ain't going to be able to do anything because Charles is going to be able to check it. We just go battle phase attack. He'll go Imperm. We'll just respond with Charles in, and we just scoop it up and move on into that all-important game number 2. So here we are in game number 2. We're going to do our best to try and get it here. We go ahead and go Terraforming. He goes Terraforming into Nightmare the Thrones, and then we go into the Lotus. My hand's actually pretty solid. That's one thing I was like talking about. Like, I have like more than half my deck right now is like board breakers and like side deck cards are in there, and I didn't see a single one, which is kind of insane when you think about when you're going first. You have like over a 50% chance to see at least one in your hand, and I saw none. That's just kind of wild. So he's going to go ahead and do his Yubel stuff here, especially on the Grave Swimmer to go into Yama, and then I stepped away to get a drink because I have no hand traps or anything like that, because, like I said, I drew nothing. Inkal's an honorable player. He's a good guy, so like he wouldn't cheat me in any way. So he makes Yama Dad Shivara, and he goes on through his typical thing. He looks like he has a Mourner in hand as well. Looks like he has like a handful of hand traps, really. Effect Veiler. So I think he shuffles back to bring out the Spirit of Yubel. This card's really crazy. So I have a lot of like gas in my hand. So like if I could just get one, if I could draw like, a Dark Ruler one more time, I'd be okay. But I have just like really, I don't know if I even played it correctly here. So he's gonna go Shivara, I believe is what he's trying to do. Shivara's effect. Nope, he's just gonna go ahead and link into the Unchained Soul of Rage, which is still pretty crazy. Lotus will come back, and then Lotus will get tributed, and then he passes it over to me, and I draw and I rip a Droplets for turn, which this right here, if anything, this game shows you why the board breaker approach is, I think, the correct way so far here. So I go ahead and go Droplets, sending Turpin and Joyous so he can't respond, to go and hit the Soul, the Spirit, and the Rage. And then I normal summon Oliver here, and I special summon out the Fire Flint Lady, and I go ahead and go right into Angelica. I go ahead and go Angelica's effect. And this is, I have to combo pretty differently here. So he's holding Ogre, it looks like. Arguably, he should have Ogred there. That would have been the best Ogre, actually. So I go and activate the field spell, pay 12. And the field spell pretty much says, please Ogre me. So he Ogres it, and I was like, darn. But I ended up opening another field spell. So I go and go Turpin to target. Or, yeah, Turpin to target and attempt to chain her effect. He effect Veilers her. I'm like, gosh, darn. Okay. So Ogre, effect Veiler. We go the second field spell, pay 12 again, but this time it'll resolve. And this is where I believe I think I goofed here. I should have added, I'm going to lose access to Roland, so this card right here should have probably grabbed me Roland, is what it should have done. Denying me Gearfried access here was huge, because Gearfried was going to clean house here, especially going second. I was going to be able to, solve 2 monsters all at once, so I end up going Durandal effect. I should have, like I said, probably grabbed Roland. Thinking about it, I should have grabbed Roland, and then I should have equipped it Oliver, used the field move of Oliver, made Charles. But even then, yeah, it's not looking so good. Like, even trying to figure out what I can do here. Effect to attach, because I add Renault here, and then I'm going to end up using the museum to move up, and then I special here, effect to add back. We can go ahead and add back Joyous, because I haven't used Joyous yet, but like that's not important here, right? So I go ahead and make the Roland, use Roland's in-phase effect. I get to special summon out Turpin, but Turpin will be banished to make Charles. He goes ahead and Ghost Mortars the Charles, so we're like, all right, that's no big deal. We go ahead and equipped. We link into the Big Charles. He was just asking if we were doing anything in response to it, and I was just like, we're just doing it. We go Big Charles. Big Charles equip this. Charles will pop the Nightmare Pain. And this is just kind of where I arguably, when going second, I should have put the Angelica in attack mode. That's what I should have done. But anyway, we end up getting to Charles through this. So Charles is Spell and Trap Negate and a pop. And we've already used the pop. So like, I'm thinking like, you know, I'm okay. I'm in an okay situation. I don't know if there was like any different way to do it. I still have Angelica here. Charles can't be targeted. And then just end phase, I get to pick up, I think, Durandal. But he gets a... So this is where not having the Gearfried kind of sucks, because like he's going to be able to add back and summon back with the Yama and then with the Unchained Soul Rage. So like he gets a lot of things. Arguably he should have summoned back the Unchained Soul and his effect would have been live, and he could have linked off Charles, actually. He couldn't have linked off Angelica because she's equipped with the Oliver, so like maybe that was a misplay on his part. But yeah, he could have done that. Maybe, you know, the frazzled with the stuff. So in phase, Roland will activate. I get to send, then add, and then Charles effect will equip, and then grab probably Ogier or no Malgus, so I can potentially get a draw. But this is what really I think kind of like, I'm not gonna say it stinks, because I know he has the 1-card set. He normal summons the Lotus, and since I go ahead and go Roland effect to equip, to go ahead and destroy the Lotus, but the Lotus is a quick effect when Yubel's on the field. So that's very, that's just, it's so good, man. It's so good. So he tributes it, and it becomes destroy a Yubel card from deck. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just have to read it, and I was like, oh, it's a quick, I was totally confused with this card, because I remember earlier when I impermed it, it wasn't a quick effect. So he destroys Yubel, or my effect becomes destroy Yubel, and it doesn't allow me to destroy the Nightmare Pain that he has. And when he flips over Nightmare Pain, he can just battle me, and then any damage he takes, I take. So essentially, he has game here because I can't check. And now that he's made the fusion, right? So once he flips it over, Charles effect, and then the Yubel the Spirit Yubel responds, and now it becomes destroy Yubel in deck, right? So there's no, I can't. He just, yeah, it was really good play from him. He had every way. He had the cards to check everything. So that's it for game 2. We're going to move on into game number 3. So moving on into game number 3, I get to go first. I go normal summon Uppercutter, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Blue Mountain Butterspree. And the reason we're playing Blue Mountain Butterspree now is because we're looking at Chain Block, Uppercutter, and Ogier, because sometimes getting hit, my sleeve rips right here, and this is the most important. This game right here, I'm not playing against Kyle, man. Just like round 1, I'm playing against the time. Time is so short, so I gotta try and combo. I can't even afford, he ashes here, so I'm trying to like speed up too, trying to follow everything. I can't afford to use Museum here, otherwise I use Museum, I lose. So I gotta do the best board that I can do without using Museum. And I think this is really insane. It's just sadly, like, I just didn't have enough. So, and then this is the bad thing, right? You're playing a deck, you know time's the pressure on you, so you gotta like, these are combo lines that I've never done before, and I'm just trying to see which avenue and lines to take that I can do. So I believe I go ahead and I make the Ib to go ahead and search Succession, and we go ahead and link here. I'm playing as fast as I can, but again, this is like unknown territory because I've never been put in a situation where we're so close to time that I don't get like another turn. So Ib summons out Beckoned, which is one of the only bricks in the deck. We go Succession to bring back Ib. We go ahead and synchro here into the Power Tool Braver Dragon, which I still think is a phenomenal incursion to the deck. I'm going to go ahead and equip these 3 cards here. Arguably, I shouldn't have done this. So I go ahead and go Hida, Reborn Ash, make Princess effect to go ahead and reborn out the Spar. I go effect of Power Tool, send Joyous to go ahead and negate the Princess. I go Durandal to go ahead and grab Ricciardetto, I believe. And then I link into a 2-material Appaloosa. And then, I go ahead and use Almas to re-equip the Joyous so I can get the special from the hand. So I'm kind of caught here. I'm like, oh, shoot, I can't just make a huge Appaloosa. I have to make like a 2-material Appaloosa, and I trigger off Joyous. Joyous specials out Ricciardetto. Ricciardetto summons out from the graveyard Renaud, and then I just go ahead and go here into Angelica effect. So we're just trying to combo, but I can't use this field spell. That's what's crazy, is I can't use the field spell. I can't pay 12, otherwise I lose for sure. And I pitch to summon out Oliver, and then that gets Malgus to the grave for me. I go ahead and go here into Little Knight. I go Oliver effect, target Angelica, to send the Ogier. Angelica banishes. Well, I messed up here. I was like, oh, nope, I don't want to send Ogier. So I send Turpin, go into this, go into Roland, just synchro into Charles, effect equip to Charles. See, we're just playing as fast as we can here, man. Equipped here. Activate the field spell to get that power boost. In phase, Charles effect will grab the Angelic Ring and then equip from the deck Ogier. And that's our turn. So without using Museum once, without using that museum once, we played through Ash Blossom, and we're able to put up a Spell and Trap negate with Charles, a Spell negate with Ancient Rings, a Pop with Charles, an SP, and then 2 negates off of Appaloosa. So that's sort of 6 disruptions we're able to get up, and it's upsetting because if time would have got to me, Ancient Ring has a cool effect where I can gain 500 life points. So he normal summons Beast, I negate it with the Appaloosa. I gotta be very careful here, so he can't do that. He attempt to activate Gravestormer, I negate that with Appaloosa. And we did have a little bit of discussion. He goes Nightmare Thrones, I have to get that with Charles. And then he has Ash in hand, and a few other, looks like a Ash plus Squirmer plus a dead card, and that's sadly all that we can do. Is we can't do anything else. I'm trying to see if there's any way I could do it, and yeah, that's just, he special summons out the Grave Squirmer. So this is just like the hypothetical. We're already through it. Time was called, so he's going to say he could if he would have done the Grave Squirmer in response to Appaloosa, and this is where you get into the realm of like what ifs, right? So if he would have done that, I could have chained the SP, removing the Beckoning Beast and removing SP, and then he would have summoned the Grave Squirmer, and then he'd be in the same spot that he would have been in. He wouldn't have had 2 monsters, so it's all hypothetical here. And then even if he makes the Yama, he could still have gone Yama battle phase, but conveniently enough, I could have popped it with the Charles. So sadly, time was just an enemy to both of us here in this scenario. I'm sure time was, time flustered him just as much. I think I saw 2 Ash Blossoms, so we did open 2 Ashes. Opening just 1 hand trap against me did not feel good, especially since I, didn't have to use my field spell to like combo and make stuff go. But yeah, that's just kind of like time's enemy, man. So this ended up being a draw, which is really upsetting. I hate drawing, especially when you know that you have the game in the palm of your hand, and just like time gets you is just really upsetting. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to round number 3 here. So here we are in round number 3. I get to roll the dice, and I finally win a dice roll, man. So it's like, oh, sweet, I get to go first. So I look at my hand, I draw Spar, Dark Ruler, Joyous, and Museum, and Imperm. So I want to go ahead and pause here real quick. So this hand's not strong, but it is combo, and we drew Imperm. This is where Dark Ruler is like the double-edged sword, right? I win the dice roll, Dark Ruler is a dead card in my hand, where it makes me wish that I was playing something else instead of Dark Ruler. But I lose my dice rolls more times than I win them, as you guys can see like here. And even out foreshadowing, I lose the dice roll in the last round. So Dark Ruler there's no other card like Dark Ruler that equalizes a board to have opening or drawing. So Dark Ruler is just kind of insane. And this is just one of the scenarios where you play board breakers, you draw board breakers, and you're going first. It is what it is. But my hand has combo. So like arguably at the same time, I open 2 non-engine cards. So I go normal summon the Spar, I go field spell effect, pay 12, and we see a Ogre here. And sadly, we're just forced to set and pass. And we see he rips Fenrir off the top of the deck. Man, I like Fenrir, but Fenrir is just one of those cards where it's like it does too much. It really does, truly. And I side it, I play it. But I'm looking at his hand, it looks like we're playing against Tenpai. He normal summons the Padra, I just Imperm it. And we all know like how this is. If he doesn't have an extender, if he had an extender, it was game over, man. That's just how crazy this deck is. That this deck is almost, it's kind of wild, man. The deck can literally play so much non-engine. All you need is 1 Fire Dragon to be able to combo through. So he links off into the Hida, so that way if I destroy the Hida, if I have a clapback, I can potentially do something. So I draw for turn. I drew Imperm for turn, which is not a good draw. And it's just, again, guys, it'd be no different if I drew a hand trap. Imperm, I technically did draw a hand trap. So I drew a hand trap, and we go here for the Princess. He brings back the Princess, and I'm like, I think that's enough because I paid 12. You attacked me for 24 and stuff like that, so that's more than enough for game. So that's a short game 1 here. There's not really much to be said about that, except for, like my hand was weak to a hand trap, and he opened Ogre, which is probably one of the best hand traps against Museum, and probably against the deck because it removes the body. So we move on here into the all-important next game here. I get to go first now, so this time I was able to sign out the, Dark Rulers and stuff like that, and put in like better cards here. And this is where we're going to see some pretty cool stuff. So I shake, good luck. So right now, actually, to go ahead and pause you right here, before everything goes through, man, before anything happens, currently in this millisecond here, I am in like a pretty good spot, because my deck goes first against Tenpai. Tenpai really, unless they have to draw like 3 board breakers to beat our board. So like technically speaking, statistically, this game should be in the wrap. Look at this.
Oh no!
We see D-Shifter. D-Shifter, I like this card in only one deck, and that is Ritual Beast. And D-Shifter is just a card to where it takes no skill to play it. So it's like, so I have to play it. Now I have to sit here and think, I'm like, oh, so I go Salesman, call Ghost Ogre, because I know he has Ghost Ogre. And Salesman is a very pivotal part to my strategy now, because when I know I'm going first, I put in Ghost Ogre, I look at or I go up and put in Ghost Ogre. I put it like at Salesman, I look at my hand, and I see what hand traps my hand can beat, and the hand traps I can't beat, I use Salesman to call it, we're good. And I'm not going to be playing the hand traps that, I'm not going to call what I'm playing, right? So Salesman has no backfire for me. But Shifter is insane, and I'm not going to go on a rant about Shifter. We all know Shifter's a crazy blowout card that probably shouldn't exist, and we're going to probably, I mean, without a doubt, most games are won by Shifter. So that's one of the bad things about Shifter is if Shifter's played, like 90% of the decks can't play with it. So now I got to try and put up a board through Shifter. And I special summon out the Spar. Arguably, we were kind of joking, Baguska Pass wouldn't be too terrible. And maybe that's what you got to do. But you can only Baguska Pass if you open the ability to make a rank 4. And sometimes, like, you don't. You have the ability to just Synchro 5. But anyway, we go Museum Effect. And I'm looking at his hand, and it's just, I think I see droplets in there. And it's just like, dang. Truly, if he didn't have Shifter, this game was mine. And that's just one of those things where it's like, I really dislike cards like that are like Shifter, because it's not just Shifter, right? You could arguably say, like, the hand trap wise, like, if Shifter was Ash or anything, like, I was fine. If Shifter was Ogre, I was fine. If Shifter was Imperm Veiler, I was fine. It's just Shifter does a lot, and I just think that Shifter, it might be an unfair card. But like I said, I'm kind of like biased towards it. I think it does fantastic in like Ritual Beast. But you know, people argue and say like Shifter is a no skill card. Like you just draw Shifter and you win by being lucky essentially. And let's be honest, I have one Call by the Grave, so he's more statistically able to get a Shifter than I am to see my Call by. So this is all we're doing, is we're thinking through the combo sequence and stuff like that and what we can do. And I think I do okay. My only option is to search for like Renault and hard make Charles, but like I gotta find a way to get to Roland, because I can't main deck Roland, because I can't get Roland to the graveyard because of Shifter. So I'm trying to end on the best thing that I can get to. I'm just trying to think of what to add. So I think I add Turpin. Yep, so we go for Turpin. We go here. And then we overlay for Dempsey. This is where probably you should have made Baguska. Like, just be honest, make Baguska, call it good. But we're going to go ahead and grab Renault here. This, like, play is going to be able to allow me to play underneath the Shifter pretty well, to an extent. I'm going to special summon out here, grab back from the Banished. And I'm looking in his hand now, he has Lightning Storm and and Droplets. So, like, really, man, if it wasn't for Shifter, we pretty much won. He was just, unless we got to see what he draws. Like, if he drew one more Board Breaker, he could have potentially got it. Actually, no, I don't think so. He activates Lightning Storm. I negate it with Charles. He chains Droplets. Green gets Droplets. It's over. So it's just one of those like scenarios, right, where it's just like bad. He has Terraforming too. Well, he has Terraforming. So actually, well, no, I opened full combo. So like I was ending on like double Charles Gearfried and a Princess. So yeah, there's just no way his hand beat this board without something like Shifter. And that's sadly just the game. So we end up making Charles. I equip there. I set a card. In phase Roland's effect activates. I get to send an equip spell. I lose it, but I get to add the Fire Warrior, which will be Roland. And so I've pretty much through this, I have Imperm and a Pop, which I don't think is like too terrible here, but he fires down Lightning Storm, and it's like, well, that do be how it do be. And then he goes Terraforming, and he gets to get the field spell, and it's pretty much, I'll kind of fast forward through here. That's pretty much all it needs to be, because Konami and their all Expiring Wisdom think it's smart to put cannot interact with your opponent on cards moving forward. Given I could wait till battle phase, right? So even at this scenario, right? Even if I could interact with him, I know he has the fire one in hand. So he just specials the fire. So regardless, he has interaction. It's one of those things, man, where he drew Shifter, and Shifter won on the game. That's just really sadly all that it is. And that's just all you need at YuGiOh, man. Just draw the Shifter, brother. That's all you need. But anyway, that is round number 3, and we're gonna move on to round number 4. I am currently 1-1-1 now in this so far. So like, we've technically only lost once, and we got a point, so we're doing pretty good with points. All right, so this is round number 4, and I believe I'm playing against like rank 10 is what it's being called. So I draw Dark Ruler, double Heritage of the Chalice, and Imperm, which isn't terrible. So pretty much, essentially, I open the anti-hand trap line here. So I go normal summon Effect Descend. Look at his hand, he has Effect Veiler and a Nibiru I think I caught there. So that means that this is crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, this is what I was saying earlier in the video, that if that was like Effect Veiler Ash, Effect Veiler, anything else, like, it was okay. But since Nibiru is a high impact hand trap, any high impact hand trip plus another one can be detrimental and can be hurting. You got to really be smart. And that's why I like playing through here. Holding Gear Freed for something like Nib is smart. You don't want to waste Gear Freed, you know, on those little hand traps, because like that's probably what they got is a higher impact hand trap that they're waiting to use on you. So you just want to kind of hold out and wait. So I go ahead and grab Durandal. I go ahead and use Durandal onto O-Gear. I'll go ahead and activate, equipped it, use its effect to go ahead and add a Renault, which, like I said, I'm getting set up for the anti-Nibiru line. But sadly, seeing that effect trailer just knows that it's just going to get checked. Effect to add here. We go ahead and synchro into Angelica. Forgot to pull out my extra deck. We go here, and now just show he admired my deck box, which was from the Sleeve Chief. We go and Angelica effect to go and add another field spell. It's also just kind of crazy that he didn't know what my deck did, and he held effect dealer this long. So it just really benefits him for being patient. Truly, that's what it does. Or maybe, you know, it really does. And right here, I'm not on my fifth. I think I'm not on my 5th summon yet, so he's just probably waiting. So we go ahead and grab here. I equipped here this throwaway equipped to Angelica. Chain Angelica's effect to dump, and then add a... or not add, dump and special summon out Roland. So we dump the Turpin, which I have to do in order to like combo through. Go ahead and make Roland. And then right here we see him drop Nib. I'm like, sweet, chain the Gear Freed, and he chains effect Veil. I was like, dang, it do be like that. So sometimes I got it. And then, well, there's not much more that I can do here, sadly or not. But conveniently, I have like, here's Dark Ruler showing its head again, showing it why like Dark Ruler is just potentially can be. But I did lose the dice roll, and he let me go first. So I kind of was like, oh, he might be on to Tempai or something like that. So that's why I was kind of like, oh no, oh no. But we go ahead and set one, and we just go ahead and pass. And Angelica's supposed to come back. Thank goodness we do catch it though, before, because Angelica I think is mandatory to come back, which is like huge in this scenario because it's going to allow me to like get benefits and stuff like that. So we bring back Angelica, and looking at his hand, is that a Gishki? It's just kind of crazy what he got here. Like I thought I was playing against Tempai. So he's going to go ahead and use Nibiru into Angelica, and I was like, okay, well, Angelica, chain. You get to bob and weave. So I will go ahead and send from the deck to the graveyard. I think I send Do I send Malgus? I send Malgus, yep. Go into Roland, and then I go Malgus effect to shuffle back and draw. And he asked me what Roland does. I was like, during the end phase, I get a search if it's in the graveyard. And he goes ahead and he hits it with Mourner, and I was like, okay, dude, that's fine. Because that's not going to stop me from getting my graveyard search, so... I think he just didn't, I think he's newish, so like he didn't understand, he's still like learning like some of the basic concepts. So like, I ended up drawing an uppercutter, so like I was like, if you attack me and then face, he gets a search, and he's like, but what about Mourner? I was like, well, conveniently that's not how it works, since it's in the graveyard, it's no longer affected by Mourner. So I arguably he should have attacked over the token, but he goes and attacks over Roland. I think for some reason he was scared of the token. I think he thought the token attack, he was probably thinking the token ain't doing me anything, but these monsters are, so if he keeps the token on field. But in phase, Roland lets me add Renault, and Angelica returns. I end up drawing for turn. I just kind of got to prepare, so I know he's on Nib, so it's like, what are the chances? Like, since he didn't do anything, I'm kind of wondering, like, oh, he might have, like, drew a bunch of hand traps, so they might be a second Nib floating in his hand, so I try to keep that in my back of my mind so that I can play through a potential second Nib. So I add the Spar, and this is one thing is, like, where I don't use Spar here because I'm not about to go through something. So I end up going up here into the Link Spider, so I can use the OSS here to send off the Link Spider to go ahead and summon from the deck Ricky Ardetto, and that'll put me at 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll put me at 4 summons, and I believe at any moment I could grab back the Gear Freed. I think at any moment I really could, but this is kind of crazy because we just have to hard make Charles here, which is, if he did have another Nib, I kind of guess that kind of came out of my eyesight here. But we're going to go ahead and go Roland effect to attach, Charles effect to pop the Nibiru, go ahead and link up into Blue Chew Charles equip, and then we're going to be able to use the museum, I believe, to move forward. I'm just explaining to him what this does, because it could be kind of, a lot to take in. But I believe I special out Turpin, special out Renault now, effect a Renault to go ahead and grab back Gear Freed, and then I think I just link into SP. Gear Freed come down by banishing an equip spell. Oh, wait a second, I just realized I put back my equip spell. So then, it's no big deal. It just essentially, same outcome. I paid 12 to go ahead and grab Joyous, just so I can use Joyous, equipped it, use it to add back. I think I add back Roland. Yeah, right now I'm just trying to get the bodies in to go for game here. I'm set up pretty well here, so I can use Museum to move up, and then we just go battle phase, and that's really all that we need to do is just battle phase. Effect to equip just in case, because I don't know what's in his hand, man. So I just want to play it safe to make sure I have everything covered. So we end up going, swooping in, doing for game. Now we go on to game number 2. So here we are for game number 2 here. I get to, he gets to go first now. He chooses to go first, which is understandable, which I kind of thought was going to happen. And looking, I see Nib, Ogre. Is that a Mystic Tomato? What in the world, man? So I have droplets in my hand. I'm going to go and activate Heritage of the Chalice to go ahead and... I think that's droplet. Was that droplets? Was it? I forget what it is. Looking at my hand, though, I have like Blue Mountain Butterspree, Malgus, and I go and use Heritage of the Chalice to go and grab the museum. I normal summon that and on summon Blue Mountain Butterspree triggers. So essentially I have the full combo as if I opened up Uppercutter in this way, but it's like 3 cards. It's like normal summon, special summon, and then museum. So I'm able to go ahead and send... So I sent Ogier, which is interesting. Effect here to go ahead... Oh, well, so I'm going second, so I sided out the whole, like, Ib combo, so that's why... Okay. But it's going to give me access to Gear Free, which is what I'm shooting for here. So I go ahead and go effect to equip, museum effect to move forward, and then I believe I special summon Ogier's effect to send, and then I think I go ahead and grab back Gear Freed, special effect add back Gear Freed, and then he goes ahead and he nibs here, which is okay, and I get a token, and I believe I just go ahead and summon out, but I'm locked into Warriors, right? So that's the thing, is I'm locked into Warriors, and I make a huge misplay here, huge misplay, man. This is horrible, man. And that should have cost me the game. I'm just caught in the moment. I decided to shuffle back 3 with Malgus, and I shouldn't have done it there. I should not have done it. I should have summoned Gear Freed, Malgus equipped, and then shuffled back 3 on like the next turn. But I drew Rhoda, and then I'm just curious. I actually forgot he said a card, so I was like, what's this card here? I thought maybe he was trying to give himself a token or something like that. I was like, oh, I have the token. And he's like, no, man, this is the card I had set. And I was like, oh, yeah, you had a card set. So yeah, I make a horrible misplay. And we're going through, he wants to know the stats of the token. The token's huge. Let's see if we can just fly through it here. So I try to go ahead and Gear Free, and I was like, oh no. So this is the second time tonight I ended up shuffling back my equip spell. So this is just like rookie mistakes here that I know I need to be conscious and aware of. Sometimes I just get blinded by the draw, and really the blinded by the draw is because of the previous version of Infernobles I was playing so much hand traps. I wanted to draw into more hand traps. I don't really need to prioritize the draw anymore since I'm playing more board breakers. And seeing that I have Imperm in my hand, I already have like one of the cards I could want, so I don't need it. So I need to stop prioritizing the draw as much, or like kind of getting hyper focused on the draw. But that's what we're here for, man. It's testing, it's, you know, relearning and stuff like that. We end up adding out the Ricciardetto, and I think that, I mean, technically I have to set 2, which I believe I end up setting Forbidden Droplets and Imperm. So then he has Ogre, Train, but this is what's kind of crazy, man. He ends up flipping over Mystic Tomato, so I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Like, this is not what I thought. Like, this ain't Tenpai. So he ends up flipping it, normal summoning. I think he goes in to make IP, and I'm like, okay, I mean, that's interesting. So he activates Exodius to shuffle back, and I'm like, what the hell are we playing against? This ain't Tenpai. So now we're staring down Exodius and stuff, and then he tries to overlay here, and I catch him. I was like, wait a minute. Exodius is level 10, Nibiru is level 11, my man. And he's like, oh no. So I was like, it's level 11. And so I think then that's when I realized, oh, he's trying to do like a rank 10 shenanigan stuff. Pretty crazy. So he ends up linking into the Celine, which I think if he had, I don't know if he had access to Apollosa, but Apollosa wouldn't have done him too good because I could just switch the token to attack, whacked over Apollosa, and then continued my day. And I also have Imperm to check Apollosa, so like we're pretty set here. And yeah, so that was a huge misplay. I still can't believe that I did that, because looking back, if this was Tenpai and I didn't get Gear Freed out, like I was kind of really up for it, man. Like I was in for it. So I need to myself focus on not shuffling back with Malgus, because I would have got the shuffle back regardless, because I would have used Malgus to equip the Gear Freed, and then I could have shuffled back and had Gear Freed out. So I just need to think about that a little bit better here. So I just got to beat Celine, and I think he ogres. Yeah, he thought I was ogres on the Durandal, which is okay. So I normal summon, normal Ricciardetto special summon here. I get to go into Angelica effect, and we're just checking stuff here. So now it's just, I just got to get lethal on the field, which isn't going to be too terrible to do, especially with access to Gear Freed. And I'm going to have access to Charles. I think double Charles, actually. Banish to summon Gear Freed. Malgus to equip to Gear Freed just to cover my bases. Second field spell. Pay 12. Equip Joyous here. Chain her effect to dump and run. So Joyous is you never want to use Almus as your throwaway equip. That's why you play Joyous. I believe playing 2 equips is incorrect. I think you run out of names too much and your museums are dead. So that's why I play Joyous, because Joyous has a lot of utility with it and being like a throwaway equip that's like Almus, because Almus can get whatever you want. So Charles to pop the Celine, go into that, Blue 2 Charles equipped here, switch to attack, man, and we just attempt to go battle phase, and we end up smoking it in for game. So we ended up going 2-1-1. We got third place. We were just technically tied for third because it was like me and my buddy Kyle, the UBL player we drew, so like we were all tied for it, but ended up placing third. And to take away from locals, I just... huge misplay on... So like I said, when you look back at this stuff, I like to look at how I lost and what I could have done differently. There's 3 times that I definitely need to be more conscious of, and that's the Malgus shuffle back and be more aware of my equip spells with Gearfried again, because it's twice I tried to summon Gearfried and didn't have an equip spell, and I think both times I had one and I shuffled it back, so that's a huge misplay on my part. And then, of course, Tactics, the game where I got hit with Durandal, with Ghost Ogre, I shouldn't have. I should have Tactics, looked at the hand, and comboed normally. I just was rewarded for Tactics draw me to 2 cards. So, just need to be better and conscious about that. In the one game I lost, it is what it is, man. I opened playable game 1. He had a hand trap to be able to stop me, and my hand was weak. So, again, not taking anything from the deck. The deck still did not brick. It opened playable, and that's what I want to see. I want to see playable hands. Even though it was a weak hand. Game 2, he drew Shifter. That's literally it, because looking at his hand and looking at the combo, I had the 1-card combo. The board breakers he drew was not going to win him the game, so that game, outside of Shifter, could have gone to a game 3 where it would have been really up in the air of what hand traps he would have drawn, and if he had been able to OTK me, because believe it or not, even though Infernobles can put up a board that Tempai cannot beat, Tempai can still beat it. That's what I think is really insane with Tempai. But anyway, that's about it. So the game that I lost, not really much can be changed about that, except for I just got to get better and draw my 1 call by to answer Shifter. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoy these type of videos and enjoy these type of vlogs or local reviews, let me know, because I will do one with anytime I go to locals. And yeah, please remember, for you guys out there, stay safe, stay healthy. This is Charles from Team COG, signing out.